Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Grab your notebooks, get ready to press the pause and slide back to rewind. Our VIP featured guest will keep you on your toes. She has held several positions in international affairs, such as Director of International Projects at Daytona State College and Liaison Officer for the Department of Defense at United States Southern Command, SOUTHCOM. She was an advisor to the government of the Dominican Republic for 10 years. She is a member of the Florida Bar and a mediator certified by the Supreme Court of Florida. Can we go on? She is amazing. She has such a significant educational background with certification. So let's just bring her on to get the episode kicked off so she can fill us in. Please help me welcome Yvette Lopez. Yvette, hello.
Hi, Amber. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I am tickled that we have this time together one-on-one. And so the audience knows we've become acquainted over, I think in the last 6 to 8 months, probably.
Yes.
Just so the audience knows too how amazing this world is. We had one interaction and then we had a second and realized, you know what? Nothing is by accident.
That's correct. You know what I say? Coincidence? I think not.
Love it. Love it. Well, Yvette, again, so tickled and excited and honored for you to share your silhouette of success with us. And so we will turn the floor over to you. So it's exciting for me to be, again, here with you one-on-one as you share your silhouette of success story.
Okay. A lot of people focus on their professional accomplishments. And as you said, I've worked in international affairs at a higher education institution as well as for the U.S. Department of Defense. So it's interesting because that one side of success, it really doesn't make up the entire picture of who a person is. And so I so appreciate what you do, bringing on different guests and, always talking about how success comes in all shapes and styles and forms, because it is the collective experience of our lives that shape us. Moments, whether they're aha moments or foundational moments that kind of guide and shape us for us to become who we are. But just a little bit about myself. My parents, I'm the daughter of hardworking immigrant parents. I was raised in public housing in Brooklyn, New York, and later sent to live to Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And our family later reunited in Florida, where I graduated from high school and then went on to college, worked for the state of Florida in public assistance as a social worker, and then attended and graduated law school. And so during my time in law school, most people were trying to figure out how to become number one in the class and how to get that top offer from the top law firms. And I was just figuring out, oh my, what have I done? I don't think that I want to practice law. And I've spent that time trying to figure out what my standard of success looked like and figured out that there were other things that I could do with my law degree. And coincidentally, on the day that I was going to graduate from law school, I traveled on the same flight as the former president of the Dominican Republic, Coincidence? I think not. And after several encounters with him, he offered me a position to lead his recently incorporated think tank. He has one in the Dominican Republic, but a sister organization he was starting in Florida called the Global Foundation for Democracy and Development. And so I did that and started to form a strategic alliance and build bridges and strengthen partnerships from Florida and the Dominican Republic and work on a host of initiatives. And then he decided to rerun and won the election. And then I found myself working for the president of the Dominican Republic as advisor to the government and was able to really do some things that we had only planned to do, but then became a lot easier from the government. And one of which was to create a community college system, which is a U.S. model and pilot campus that is in Eastern Santo Domingo. And that took almost 8 years to come to fruition. But the campus is on its 5th graduating class, has 13 buildings, and has partnerships with U.S. institutions, and has been visited by global leaders, including Joe Biden. I'm very proud of that project, and it's been a force multiplier for the region and meeting the needs of business and industry in the Dominican Republic. And so when that all came to an end, I had to, regroup and think, what am I going to do now, and take a stock in what I had accomplished and what my needs were at the time. And so I started my career with the U.S. government. And so I've held different positions for Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and now I work for Department of Transportation. And I will take this time to say a disclaimer that I have to say, which is that, all of these opinions and viewpoints are my own and do not in any way, shape, or form reflect an official opinion or the opinion of agency leaders, or these comments or perspectives are not made in an official capacity.
Love it.
I had to do that. I'm sorry.
No, never. No, we are not sorry here. When we have to say things, and it's about transparency and disclose, isn't it? So yeah, we get that. And yes, this is all about you. So absolutely, we got all that out of the way, and now you get to just share your goodness.
Well, you and I have talked quite a bit about personal strategic planning, although I don't, really do that as far as my 8 to 5. It is a hobby that I have, done and coached individuals through the process for at least 15 years or so. And so I'm not sure if you wanted to delve into personal strategic planning, which, although is just a hobby for me, most recently has become a little bit more formalized because I've been sharing. I did a workshop for vision board development for Girl Scouts. And then I also did an introductory personal strategic planning workshop at the House of Shine in Grapevine, Texas. And so now I'm in the process of incorporating and setting up my website in order to be able to share all of the resources and templates and hold my webinars online. So I have a Spanish, an introductory course in Spanish coming up. If you know anybody, that'll be next month. And so I like to share what I've learned. I didn't have a mentor. My parents didn't graduate high school. And so I didn't have anyone to kind of usher me through the process. And with all of the hiccups and life throws some things at you, I had to learn on my own. And so if I can reach out and help anyone, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, milady, we talked and we said this is going to be a casual, conversation, you and I sharing your story with the audience. So yes, we're going to talk about anything and everything you want to, respecting, of course, your schedule. So with that said, we took a quick shift from, yes, your official capacity on the clock, if you will, during the business hours. So let's turn a little bit to what your initiatives are doing, because I won't put words in your mouth, but I suspect that there's quite a passion for what you're working on in your off time.
Yes.
And yes, that you are now, I think, maybe I mentioned to you, you're going to have to turn this into yours and your baby alone. And it
Mhm.
sounds like you just dropped a teaser that
Mhm.
you have a website coming up.
Yes.
So we're going to get into that, your personal strategic planning and your course development, all of those amazing things that you're doing. You just mentioned not having a structured mentor, if you will, but there's some drive within you. There's a sense of drive and giving back and scooping up all the knowledge and then sharing it. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I grew up in the 80s in Brooklyn in public housing. And so I'm not sure if you're as old as I am, but in the 80s, it was a very violent time for that area. And I used to look outside the window at night and stare at the moon. I'd hear gunshots in the background, and screams and arguments. And I would think to myself, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. I would imagine that others in the world were staring at the same moon, but living in different circumstances. And so, that compelling sense of why was that I didn't want to grow up and not have options. I didn't want to have a life where I felt that I didn't have the power to choose. And so that is, I think, what has driven me to always try to excel and do the best that I can and kind of explore all of the options that are available to me. And I think together with that, I mentioned before that my family was reunited in Florida. Was supposed to be reunited in Florida, and my father passed away that year. I was only 17. And at that moment, family was supposed to be united. I'm going through the grief of losing my father. I find that that an unexpected death like that also allows you not to take time for granted. So we don't ever get this day again, right? Today, this experience that you and I are having right now. So what we do with our time is important. And so I think that that really has shaped even the personal strategic planning and trying to help people make the best of their investment of time and get a better return and be more satisfied with and happy with their life instead of just, going to a job that they dislike, right? Which is where we spend most of our time. So I think that that's what's driven me not only to be the best that I can be and take advantage of every opportunity that's available to me, but also to help others look at life in the same way.
Well, I guess I would comment by saying it's beautiful with an undertone of early on heartbreaking as I visualize you staring at the moon. You had me with you. I was staring at the
Mm-hmm.
moon with you in your story.
Mm-hmm.
But the adversity of that, you are blessing so many. And I hear it in you. Every time we talk, there's that sense of urgency to get it out there and to reach as many people as you possibly can, to share as much as you possibly can. And so, what a blessing for all of us.
And it's funny because at the beginning of my workshops, I always introduce myself and then have others introduce themselves and think about those foundational moments that kind of establish, your path. And I always tell them, put your butt into it, right? Because it might be sad, but there's always a but behind it, right? That's what gave me my drive. That's what, has me striving for excellence. So you have to always put your butt into it.
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. So, earlier you shared your educational resume, if you will, and everything that you've earned and accomplished and achieved, building blocks for what you're able to do for the community and for everybody at large, anyone who's able to find you and tune into you in all of those different capacities that you're reaching out. What is maybe one of your most special accomplishments or achievements that you're most proud of? And talk a little bit about what that means to you.
Well, the development of the community college system in the Dominican Republic was a great achievement. For me, it is, when the 10 years that I spent there working and developing initiatives, and there's a lot of joint degree programs and things that still exist, but to be able to say that I led the effort to create this model and institution where currently, 3,500 students are enrolled. 5 graduating classes have come and gone and have been able to get good, paying jobs. and given them opportunities that they didn't have before. That to me is probably my greatest professional accomplishment. It was a very difficult thing. I not only was working in a government where primarily it was older men, and at that time I was in my 20s, and a woman and an outsider, right? Because I'm from the US, culturally speaking, there's a lot of distinctions made in how they do business versus how I was, accustomed to doing business. So it took me a while to really learn the working culture. I had lived in the Dominican Republic, but I was in middle school and high school on the receiving end, right? I had never worked there. I had never tried to accomplish anything there. So I had to step back because at the very beginning, I was just like, okay, this is the deadline. We need to get this done. And everybody's looking at me like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's your deadline. And we're going out for wine later. You want to come? And so, the culture is built on relationships. So a lot of the folks that work together, so I had to work with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Higher Education, the Technical Training Directorate. These folks, like their children go to school together. They all had the same teachers in college. So they had this camaraderie and relationship that I did not, have the benefit of having. So I had to build that. And so that took some time, building the relationship, creating credibility, letting them know that, I was here to help versus I had an agenda to satisfy anything for myself, right? Which is usually if an outsider comes in and tries to do a project, it's viewed as, okay, well, what are you getting out of it? How much is your cut, right? So it took a while for them to understand, no, oh, she's just trying to help. Getting those different ministries to work together. This was actually the first time in history that they've ever worked together on a single project. The fact that I was able to do that, and lead that effort, it was 20 work groups. We created a project that was unique. You have a technical training institute in the Bahamas. You have one in Mexico. But what we were creating was one that was like the US model, which would allow for credit transferability so that folks would get certifications, get their 2-year technical degrees, but also have the opportunity to transfer to a university setting if they so choose. So again, about creating options, right? And so I'm very proud of that because again, it acted, and also creating the environment so that we would ensure that the business and industry would have input and have a seat at the table, making them part of the board of directors, making them part of curriculum development so that it would maintain relevancy and be current. And so all of those efforts, getting community buy-in. So we hosted several town halls so that people would understand this is what's coming to your neighborhood. And then creating those partnerships, those sister relationships with institutions in the US. So all of that together ultimately has an institution, a pilot campus that is training, ensuring that businesses have the talent they need, but also ensuring that, over generations, these folks are going to have opportunities that they didn't have before. And so when I'm dead and gone, that will continue. And that makes me feel good.
It is mind-blowing, my friend. It really is. How do you take yourself off of cloud nine when you reflect back or when you think about maybe one of those students in all of those classes? That's amazing.
Well, and it's humbling. The folks that work there, and my former assistant was vice president of planning and development there in the institution. And it's so funny because, people remember me and they remember the efforts. But in 5, 10, 15 years, there will be no trace that I had anything to do with it. And that's okay. And that's okay because that wasn't the reason why, right? When we were talking about standards of success, that's not a standard of success for me to be on the microphone, to be on the news, to be in the papers or in the front. My standard of success is to be able to know that those people are having a better life, better opportunities because of something that I did. So I think to me, it just means that my life meant something, To me, it's humbling because I've had so many different experiences. Again, working for the Department of Defense. I mean, I think that if you're open to it, opportunities come, and I've seized them. I've lived them. When I'm dead and gone, I know I'll be, or when I'm on my deathbed, I'll say, I have lived a life well lived. And I think that ultimately that's the great reward for me.
Fantastic. And again, I hear you staying true to creating options, both from the little girl looking at the moon to all of the other individuals that you have helped open the door for creating options for them as well. And typically, as it goes, once you do that for somebody else, they will also continue that trend. So
Right.
you've created a legacy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not to be made light of.
It's a
So
ripple effect.
humbling is great,
Yes.
but at the same time, amazing work for you. So, question for you, Yvette, where do you turn to when you are looking for a little bit of support or guidance?
Well, my faith is a really big part of my life. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Pastor T.D. Jakes of the
Yes,
Potter's House. And so
absolutely.
he's been my pastor for over 20 years. And Pastor Stephen Furtick from Elevation Church, which is in North Carolina, who I've been listening to for at least 10 years. So individually, both of these are, folks are amazing. Pastor Jakes is older, Stephen Furtick is younger. So they come at explaining the word from a historical, psychological perspective. And when they come together, they're even more powerful. So if you haven't seen them together on YouTube, you should check out those videos. It's very profound, thought provoking, and it convicts me, right? So it allows me to be grounded and centered regarding my values and my standards, and then just basically to be coherent, right, with what I say and how I live my life. The moments of reflection that it creates to listen to authors and speakers in the spiritual sense. I don't think that I would be able to be who I am and have the emotional intelligence and the balance that I have if I didn't have the opportunity to have them as part of, whispering in my ear, right?
Love that. One of my favorite stories that he shares is the mop and the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
His father's story.
Mm-hmm.
So that one has always resonated as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, love that. And it's interesting because our audience, just like you and I, and we're always hungry for inspirational resources and uplifting stories and encouragement. Do you have a favorite author, book, podcast, resource that you follow? And if so, what makes it a favorite?
Well, I have two, and that I religiously follow, other than the two that I just mentioned. But Dr. Caroline Leaf is a neuroscientist. I think I've talked to you about her before. She is a scientist, also a person of faith. And so the first time I heard her, she came to the Potter's House, and she talks about how the brain, as we think, the brain changes on a cellular, molecular, chemical level. And so whatever we think about actually grows because we're feeding it with energy. And so a lot of what she talks about is paying attention to behaviors, reflecting, writing, and kind of activities that would promote cognitive development. And apparently, which I did not know before I started listening to her, you can actually modify your brain up to 80%. So she works a lot with brain trauma patients, and the same way she's taught individuals to be able to speak again or walk again. She says that you can train your brain to reduce anxiety, stress, and toxic thinking. So I am currently reading her book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, which is very good. And she's actually, believe it's in November, has a conference that I'll be attending here in Dallas. And then the other is Sarah Jakes, which I'm not sure if you've heard, but she's Pastor T.D. Jakes' daughter. And she's a pastor. She's also an author of several books like, Don't Settle for Safe, Lost and Found. And then I'm just starting her new book, which is called Evolve. And she has an interesting story because she got pregnant, the daughter of a pastor within the church. She got pregnant at the age of 14. And so she went through the ups and downs of that. And it's just amazing. And the book Evolve is about this. It's about picking up those leftovers and broken pieces. And if you dare to show up, right, that can take all of those broken pieces along with the gifts and talents he has given you to unleash the fullness of your identity. In that there's just unexpected beauty to, like she says, there's unexpected beauty to behold, not to achieve, but to behold. Those are two of the authors that I follow and that uplift me.
Wow, that second book sounds transformational. Wow.
Evolve.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
and she's doing she has like a book club and things like that. So I'm in the process of doing that as well, because she's just it's funny because a lot of people that are really deep, right, that are inspirational have gone through these life-changing, heart-wrenching experiences. And when they come out of that, right, because I think success is about, yes, being resilient. But after you've been resilient and dealt with your emotions and whatever you're dealing with, you have to be able to pivot and rise and gain strength and be able to start over. And I think that the people that I've heard and you hear their stories, have been able to do that very well and have found themselves, in the process. So, yeah, she's one of them. So.
Wow, we have to give it that rally cry, right? When we come out
Yes,
of that adversity and say, wow,
definitely.
it's a survivorship that, yes, you have to celebrate that too.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. So, my friend, I'm watching the time and respecting your schedule. However, I want to make sure that we touch a little bit on your goals and your missions with your personal strategic planning.
Okay.
Is there anything that you wanted to touch on briefly and share with our audience? So, we're going to share contact info in a minute.
Okay.
But do you want to talk a little bit about the program or the courses that you are creating?
Sure. The purpose of strategic planning, right? And businesses, we know this term from businesses that create, a 5-year, 10-year plan, and then revisit that plan often. And that's to set overall goals for the business and develop a planning tool to chart your course, right? Define success and help you determine how you will use your resources. And so a lot of times, personally, we don't see our lives as a business, but we manage a budget, right? We have income. We manage time and energy, which are limited as well, right? So being able to develop a plan, assess your current state, where you are, identify a future state, desired state, and then develop a plan to get there. That's what I've been helping people to do. It sounds simple, but life isn't simple, right? And most people live reactively. They're just living day to day, and whatever comes their way, they're just fighting it off or surviving. And what I'm talking about is thriving, right? So that you set goals, and the plan is a living document. But it's important to be able to have a plan. What is it? You either have a plan or you plan to fail, something like that. That's the
Yes.
saying. So, it's an intentional way of being proactive and making choices that lead you to where you want to be. And so I've done that primarily with young people because our schools don't really do a good job of working with our kids. And that's not, to downplay the wonderful jobs that they do. But if there are a lot of children, there's one guidance counselor, right? So they don't really have the time or the resources to aid them through self-discovery or assessing their strengths or ultimately selecting a career path, right? So what happens with our young people, they go to college and then they change their major like 3 or 4 times. What should be a 4-year degree ends up being a 6-year degree. And in the process, time and money is lost. So really, I'm trying to have a platform in order to be able to share what I've learned and be able to have people that are interested, right? Not everybody wants to develop a plan, and that's okay too, but that are interested in taking life by the horns and making a plan and charting goals and accomplishing them.
It's so fantastic because everything you say, I'm nodding my head yes to, because we all either have been there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not we all. Many of us have been there, but I think we all would know someone who is in that current situation, trying to get out of a situation,
Yeah.
So it's so applicable.
Yes.
And so once again, from me to you, thank you for all of your energy, your heart that you are putting into that and sharing the wealth of information. And I'll tell our audience in a minute when we let Yvette share her resources or whatever she's able to now, stay in touch with her, follow up with her, because I happen to have a sneak peek of a program that she held, and it is just awe-inspiring. So
that's awesome.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, even with COVID, if you want to apply it, a lot of people are having to start over, right? They were furloughed or let go, or they're coming out of an unemployment situation and they're thinking about what their next steps are, and that's a difficult place to be. Although you may have to get the job to be able to eat, right, and pay your bills, but you always want to start planning in the background what's your ideal, what's your dream job, and work in that direction using what you have, right? Like the saying is, the glass empty or full, right? Half empty or full. I say it's refillable. And that's what's important, is taking all of what you have and then charting a course to where you want to be.
It's a time of transformation and reinvention, good, bad, or, whatever you want to make it to be. You're right. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you do too. So Yvette, it has been such a joy visiting with you today. And as we begin to wrap up and keeping the promise to share intentional inspiration with our audience, would you happen to have a piece of key go-to advice that you'd like to share?
Yes. How about, can I do like a reflection?
Do whatever your heart desires.
Okay. So one of my favorite quotes is that a mind stretched can never return to its original dimensions, right? That's not mine. That's Oliver Wendell Holmes. But a mind stretched sees possibilities while others are blinded, right? A mind stretched is creative, enthusiastic, passionate, open, empathetic. And how do you get a mind that is stretched? You travel, you expose yourself to new experiences, you talk to people who don't look like you, who don't think like you, you challenge yourself, you face your fears. So my advice would be to stretch your mind, because your life will never be the same.
Nothing to say to that. Yeah. Oh, that is fantastic. Fantastic. Yes, applause everywhere for you. Thank you for that. All right, milady, where can our audience go to find and connect with you on your socials or support you in your continued success?
Well, I started a Facebook group page that's called Personal Strategic Planning Support. And there's no other page that has that title. So you'll be able to easily find it and communicate with me if you're interested in this topic through there. And then you can also email me, Yvette, Yvette, Lopez, Chapman, CHAP as in Peter, MAN, at me.com. So reach out. I will always return your email or contact, and I'm here to help.
Fantastic. And I can assure the audience she is. Oh, Yvette, thank you so much. And just so you know, we will make sure that those contact and resources are at the bottom in the show notes of the podcast, so everybody can easily just click on it and find you. So
awesome.
Thank you once again for sharing your time and silhouette of success with us. You are a tremendous inspiration, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber. So are you. So are you.
It's a compliment. Thank you. I treasure that. All right, milady, you enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you once again for spending time with us today.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out, and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer Podcast, Silhouettes of Success.